Yo, so I decided first I was reading through art ideas that I had had in a book, and I saw one to make a plushie out of jean, and I was like, oh, I totally want to do that. So that's what I did today. So to start, I made a pattern. I just drew a basic bunny shape. I'm not great with patterns, just kind of whatever. I try to do really, really basic shapes. So it's just two pieces that you sew together. So I drew my bunny on a folded page so that it would come out symmetrical. And then I have my pattern. So then I have this giant jean dress I got at a thrift store so that I would have fabric to work with. And I drew out my bunny twice, so you have a back and a front. Drawing on the wrong side of the fabric so you don't have to worry about your pen showing. I did make it washable, but I'd rather not wash it if I don't have to, just to keep it good for as long as possible. So anyways, I made my pattern out of just a thick piece of folder page so that it can hold up. Draw it out with whatever marker shows up on your fabric. I had to try a few different colors before I could see it. And then I did save that little end strip because I might use it for something. I have another idea I want to do with jean. I don't know though. I don't know. So anyways, cut out your back and your fronts for whatever shape. I like bunnies a lot. Did I ever say that? So I really like bunnies. First, the best animal is birds, but then next best is bunnies. So I like bunnies. Anyways, so I wanted to do the bunny, and I wanted to see what a jean plushie would feel like and stuff. So I liked it a lot. Anyways, how many times do I say anyways? Oh my goodness. You get your back and your front, and then they're going to be insides together. So you got to decorate your face. And this is the smallest hoop I had. So I would have preferred having a smaller hoop, but this is the one I could find. So then you pick whatever colors of embroidery thread you would want for your face. I chose hot pink nose, light pink mouth, green eyes, black pupils, white whiskers. So that's all the colors, I think, right? So I draw the face on with a marker so that I can kind of remember where I'm putting the face. Otherwise, a lot of the time my face will be like way up in the corner of the head. I mean, it happens. Whatever. Anyways, so I draw it out to try to keep myself in the center and symmetrical as possible. So then for the nose, I just did a little triangle nose, and I did just straight stitch all the way down. I did that for the eyes too. And then for the mouth, it's a running stitch around, and then the pupils are both French knots twisted 4 times around, so it's nice and big, but not so big that it's too hard to get your needle out. I don't do more than 4 on things like this. And then the whiskers are a different kind of embroidery thread. I have this like wiggly embroidery thread. What's the word? Curly. And I tried to pull it because usually I'll only use 2 strands. It'll come with 6 strands on a skein. And I like 2 strands at a time because it's easy to work with. But the white was 2 strands on a skein, and if you tried to separate them, they'd fall apart like wool. So it's very fragile. So I wound up using the whiskers thicker than I expected. But whatever, it's still fine. I like the different textures anyway. I like textures. So blah blah ramble. I mean, you don't have to embroider the face. You can also just draw it on or paint it on. If you want to wash it, it needs to be washable paint. I definitely used washable paint for this. I considered using acrylic, but just in case it ever wound up getting washed, I think it's best to try to use fabric paint. So if you don't want to do the sewing part, you could just draw on it. And if you're never going to wash it, you've drawn it with basically anything. And just to say, a Sharpie would be fine enough. So yeah, nothing too fancy for the face. It's just, I considered using button eyes too, but that's something that I do when I make the poppets. So I didn't really want that for this because I don't want this to seem like the poppet. This is just supposed to be a bunny. So yeah, cute basic face, not a lot going on. I forget where my train of thought was going with that. So you needed, well, for this jean, either embroidery thread or paint, something like that, some kind of a marker of sorts, scissors, and something to make a pattern out of. I think that's all the things, right? Oh, and stuffing. that might be all of the things. Anyways, so you could hand sew the entire thing if you want to sew the outside. I can't. I have arthritis in my thumbs, and I now have carpal tunnel as well after getting nerve damage. So I can't do that motion and then sew for very long, more than like a second. So I did decide to do this on the sewing machine. My dog over there laying on the couch, I thought he was cute on my pillow. He's currently just chewing himself over there. Yeah, you. Anyways, where's my train of thought going? So it could be an entirely hand-sewn project if you want, or I mean, if you really want to, it wouldn't be all that cuddly and soft. You could hot glue wrong sides together, and then it would just not look the same. But it'd stay together. I mean, it's an option if you just wanted to sit on a shelf. But if you want it to actually be like a plushie, a squeezable, squishable plushie, you need to do wrong sides together and sew it at least somehow. You could sew it on the machine or by hand. And by hand, I would do the kind of sewing where it's around the outside, loops. I don't know what the name of that one is. Blanket stitch? I don't know. I would loop stitch the outside together. So for my ears, I decided to do actual fabric paint. I was not going to try to sew this with embroidery thread because my hoop is too small to really adjust the ears. So I just grabbed some fabric paint, and I didn't want to try to mix my own color, so I just went with a pre-made color. It was fine. And they weren't really centered at the end. Well, one of them totally isn't, but it's fine. I mean, I could have painted this part on the ears when I was done, I realized, so maybe hold off. If you're going to use fabric paint for the inside of the ear, maybe hold off until you're done. Or hell, if you're going to do fabric paint on the whole face, you could probably just paint the whole face after you sew it and stuff it. That might be best. Might, because it'll be bumpy, so might also not. Depends on what kind of paint you're using, I guess. Then you have to wait for it to dry completely before you do anything with it, but it dries really fast. It was like 10 minutes, 15 minutes, so it's not bad. And then I put the right sides together. And I don't have any pins. I used to have sewing pins, like so many, but I lost them all. So now what I use is needles as my pins, just very carefully. I have to hold it together somehow, or else it'll go askew on the sewing machine. So I did what I did here. And then I went to my mom's office and pulled out the sewing machine and set that up really fast because it's way easier to do this by hand on the sewing machine than by hand. Way easier. So, and way faster. Oh my goodness. I was in there for maybe 15 minutes max, including setting it up and everything. And I don't try to pick any special colors for the bobbin or the top thread because it's on the inside. It doesn't matter what it looks like, what color it is. So I just go with whatever's already loaded. So yeah. And then when you want to do a corner on the sewing machine, you put the needle all the way in you walk it in, and then you put the foot down. Wait, actually, you're picking the foot up. Sorry, I'm a little confused today. You pick the foot up and release the foot, but with the needle still in the fabric, and then you can twist the fabric and then put the foot back down, and then you keep going in the same spot, but in a different angle, so you can get a tight turn, going around the legs and stuff. That might not have made any sense. And then you have to cut off your little excess bits from using the sewing machine. And that's what it would look like. You gotta now do the fun task of right-siding out it. Is that how you'd say that? Anyways, I have these two painting tools where one of them is pokey on the end and one of them is round on the end, and I use both of them for doing this and also for filling the stuffing into it. It's a lot of poking and wiggling around the fabric to try to get little things like this inside out. I was trying to go for wide and easy, but that didn't happen. I also planned to leave the side open, not an ear, because it's easier to right side out from a side than it is from a little limb type thing like an ear. I don't know why I put down on the sewing machine at the ear, but that's where I wound up having to swap it out with and fill the stuffing, but whatever. My handy dandy tools helped me out here. I lost my train of thought again. Like, so bad. It's gone. So you can stuff it however much or however little you want. I was going for kind of like a heavy stuff because I wanted all the wrinkles in the fabric to like flatten as much as possible for the dude's body. My bunny bod. Oh my god. When you're using the stuffing too, I fluff it up a bit and it'll go farther and it'll feel nicer. There won't be hard clumps anywhere in your little dude. And for stuffing, I just use a pillow that's been cut open because a pillow is like $6 and polyfill is like $30. So do the math there. I have never in my entire life seen polyfill at what I consider a reasonable price, but I've definitely seen pillows on sale. Holy. So actually, I think this particular pillow was $3 and it has been used for so many projects. It was my mom's actually. I went looking for hers because I used up all of the stuffing that I was using for my projects. But she was making smaller projects, so she still had some left. So I went and took that out of the apothecary. Anyways, so in order to sew up the outside, once it's fully stuffed and you still have your little part unsewed as you're trying to close it. Is that the rest of the sentence? I lost my train of thought mid-sentence. Anyways, I put something inside the ear as I'm going to close it so that I don't accidentally sew the ear closed. So I know I still have like an ear canal to put stuffing down. That sounded so weird and creepy. Oh my goodness. And then I just do the outside stitch. I think that one's a blanket stitch. I just do an outside stitch all the way up the ear and I work just a little bit as I go so that I don't accidentally sew the ear closed too far and so that I also don't accidentally sew any of the seams like up and out so you can see the jagged little edges bits. So just work slowly to close the edge. It's pretty easy. And then after I got most of it done, I still left the very, very tip top open and then I put the polyfill into the ear tube because it's still, empty as much as possible and then just try to close the top up. The top did not wind up being round in the slightest and I don't know how I could have tucked the corners to make it round. I'm not great with shapes at all. So it's a moon ear. It's like a chip ear. Okay, well, whatever. It's like my nephew's cat's ear. He has a little... He's an orange cat with a little... His ear looks like my bunny's ear. So yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be perfect. I think it's really cute, regardless of the shape of the ear. So, and it also feels fun. I worried that the jean would feel too stiff and like just be a little weird, but it's actually like soft and puffy and it feels fun. I don't even know how else to describe the texture to my fingers. Like, it's puffy jean. I don't know how to describe that. It's puffy jean. It's cute puffy jean in my opinion. That's a little wonky and the eyes look like they're a little askew, but I think that it came out pretty well regardless. The biggest thing that I see that bothers me is that the ear painting on that one ear is way off. So that would have been better if I just did that after, but it's close enough. And it's wiggly and squishy and fun. So thanks for watching.